Hey everybody, welcome to Talk Openly. My name is Jack and I'm here with my dear friend Daniel.
Hi,
Uh,
everybody. Hi, Jack.
Hi, how are you doing,
Nice.
Daniel?
It's good. It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Yes. And I have to say, this background that you have behind you is really lovely.
Isn't that
Yeah.
nice? So I noticed that whenever I do it in my normal spot, it's kind of dark, right? And like the lighting, it's just I always feel sort of like off lighting wise. And so tonight I thought I would go into my daughter's room. And so this is like teenage angst and heroes and
Oh,
whatever behind me. And you can see, do you see the LED lights?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't have LED lights in my room.
No,
So
you're not
LED
cool.
lights and get this, check this out. I'm going to show you something kind of cool. Ta-da.
Oh, kidding. Yay.
Yeah, we got a kitty here. This is Lola.
Yay.
This is Lola Boo, and
Oh.
she does not like. She'll come in and go around my ankles and stuff whenever I'm working, but she doesn't jump up on my desk. But now that I'm in here, she came up and she was doing that sort of like thing that everybody says their cats do with
Yep.
laptops and stuff. It's pretty cool. So I don't know, I might have to start working in here so that Lola Boo will join me.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, good. So I'm glad you like it. I think it kind of works, and I like the way I look here.
Yeah, very nice. Yes, you're radiant.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. How are you today?
I feel less than radiant. I got my COVID booster yesterday. Yeah, about 24 hours ago now. And for most of the day today, I was feeling, just fine, feeling like normal. But then I ate my lunch today, and afterwards I just started feeling like really fatigued and kind of achy, um and then it was starting to feel a little bit better. And so then, that's kind of when I sent out the text message that, like, okay, it's happening, we're going to do Talk Openly. But I'm feeling worse than that moment, so I think we're gonna keep it a little bit short tonight.
Okay.
um and I think that's actually something that I really admire about our Lama at Lions Roar Dharma Center, is that there have been a couple times that he's really modeled for me, um, him taking care of himself when he's not feeling well.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's a really good thing for us to do, is that, because here I am sitting with a blanket. I've got my
Right.
I
Right. Oh,
got my
oh.
tea and some tea, and I'm like, how bad do I have to feel to, give myself a break? So I think this is, it's bad enough, right?
You get your attendance is noted.
Thank
So
you.
you get a points for attending. So appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. It sucks that you're feeling bad though. I mean, those
Thank you.
I haven't had the most recent, like the second booster, but I do remember when I got like the first batches of the shot that I did feel what you just described, the achy, and it kind of is sort of like, my understanding is COVID itself does that too, where it kind of comes like a little bit in waves, right? Like
Yeah.
there'll be like periods where you feel good, and then like just a little bit later you feel really bad. So it's like a mini version of it. And I hope that it suffices, that that's all that's needed, and you don't need to get any more COVID experience in your life.
Gosh, I hope so too. Yeah, so far, I've been able to avoid it. So
Yeah.
so that's good. I'm gonna keep it that way.
Yeah, you are. It's a small price to pay for your health and well-being.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Well, how about, tonight we had kind of a fun idea, where we generated some questions, both from our own personal experience, maybe questions that we had when we, first started coming to the temple or first started practicing meditation. And we also asked a couple other people in our lives or in the Sangha, for some questions that they might have had or still have, you know, because some of these questions I have here, I still have no idea to them. But we kind of wanted to do like a rapid fire, like, you know, maybe spend a few minutes on each question just to kind of just to have fun and see where we can go with it.
Maybe a mellow, easy fire. Not too rapid.
Right. Well, a slow, easy fire sounds good. Yeah. Cool. Well,
I don't know about you, Jack. Oh, you got them there like little strips.
You're
so neat. You mentioned a jar, but I decided because it was appropriately themed, I thought I'd use my meditation bowl.
I like.
And just because I'm sort of an agent of chaos, there's nothing neat about these. There's no strip. I crumbled them up and tossed them in there. That's my style.
I like that. And that's funny. I mean, that kind of echoes some of the conversations we had recently about how you can tend towards more of like the nihilism chaos side of it. And I can tend towards the more like eternalism, like I want everything to be like perfect and like definable. So it fits.
Hey, this is how we strike a balance.
This is, yes. Thank you for that. All right, well, what do you think? Should I pull one?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. I didn't get a chance to prep for this, so I'm kind of on edge.
I know, right? Yeah, it's kind of fun. All right. This one is hilarious, and I'm kind of glad that I pulled it first. Is this a cult?
Oh my God. Okay, seriously, did you cheat? Did you pull that one?
Well, that's
random.
That I was like, I don't know like how I would answer. Well, I know how a little bit, but I felt like I wanted to pose it to you first. Like,
oh my God, that's hilarious. That's I would say that was like the predominant sort of question. And related, there's a number of questions that are like related to it, that are sort of in a similar vein. And I think that so interestingly enough, I have some experience with a quasi cult, right? So I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and they don't actually meet all the conditions for a cult. So like from a technical point of view, it's not a cult, but they do have cultic methods of like mind control and stuff like that, of social cohesion or whatever you want to call it. And I would say, given my limited experience there and my understanding of the way cults typically form and operate, it is without a doubt, undeniably, with just 100% not a cult. Not even. I do think, there is this sort of, one aspect that I think that kind of distracted me in the beginning or made me think about the cult thing was that cults typically have a single charismatic leader, right? And, Lama's pretty charismatic.
Yeah.
Right. And there was this sort of sense of like, and there's great reverence paid towards him by members of the Sangha and others, right? So there was this sort of like, what's going on here? Like, is he the leader? Is he the one who's going to tell people what to do and stuff like that? Right. And man, my experience couldn't be anything other than that, right? Like the only thing I've ever noticed within the Sangha and from Lama is steering me towards liberation and freedom, and the exact opposite of what a cult would be trying to do. And so, and it's always there's never been any sort of shoulding or telling me how to do things. It's really about trying to help me be the best whatever the hell I am, right? And there's all these methods for doing that, but none of it. There's none of the signs of a cult are there. Zero.
Yeah, you're not being controlled. Like there's instructions and suggestions for, here's how ethical behavior could, benefit your life. But are you forced to do anything? No. And even if you screw up, I've seen ways that Lama has really supported people maybe when they haven't been following precepts that they've taken, and so it's not like you're getting kicked out for things. And I think cults are very much about that kind of in-group out-group thing, where it's
Yeah.
like, once you're in, everyone else is kind of like effed up in some way, and we're like the sacred ones, like the sacred chosen ones. And that's not at all what I've found in my exploration of Buddhism, particularly at this temple. What I found is just a real embrace of everybody who comes in the door, and a non-forcing of anything.
Do you think, Jac, I kind of sometimes suspect that there are actually people who come looking for that.
Absolutely.
Come either looking for it or expecting it. I know that I did sort of expect some of that. And I have been surprised, and I noticed a little dismayed, right? Like I noticed that I did want a strong, whatever, figure, authoritative figure, to tell me that I was doing things wrong, and that if I only did X, Y, and Z, then it would all work out, right? And like, man, like, it's just nothing like that, right? Nothing. That's not not my experience.
I know. I've had very similar desires that I find interesting, where it's like, because I consider myself a very like anti-authoritarian, kind of like anarchist type person. And to notice that, when I would go into darshan, like these kind of meetings with Lama, I was really wanting that kind of like, just do this, and or like make this decision. I was really wanting someone to tell me what to do. Instead, it's more like you're just being guided, towards whatever decisions or, choices that you end up finding right for you, with, the Dharma really being that kind of like guidepost. But turns out, like, we are so diverse in how we are, and Dharma does not put out diversity at all. It really encourages diversity. It's just giving you some guardrails for when, when shit hits the fan, and like, here's what's gonna help you stay kind of be that buoy in chaotic waters.
Exactly. It's like gardening principles or something like that, in which all of the plants in the garden, operating by the same sort of basic principles, have what they need, the nourishment they need, the sun, the light, the light, the water, and all of that. And yet they all grow into something quite different. That's that variety, and is indeed what seems to be the point of Buddhism, is to really help people grow into what they are, right? To achieve their own sort of highest self-realization, or whatever you want to call that, highest potential actualization.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend recently actually about this, that the Buddha wasn't becoming like a superhuman. He just became human, like completely a healed human. And so we're not like kind of going after anything that we don't already inherently have. We're just uncovering. Yeah. So short answer, is this a cult? No.
Nope. No, despite, even if people wish it were, it's still not a cult.
Exactly.
All right, is it my turn?
It's your turn, yeah.
Okay, I'm going for the small crumpled up one. I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Who or what are you worshiping?
Oh, that's a great question. Who or what am I worshiping? Well, I suppose the word worship sometimes doesn't feel quite accurate for me. And at the same time, I know that we have, our prayer books and stuff.
Hmm.
that do have that language of like worship and um, almost even like submission, right?
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, what I've come to understand uh, is that what I'm worshiping are all of the qualities um, that that I myself can develop. And so any of the, I'm kind of pointing to, I've got my my altar over there, and it's covered with, these images of like these really strong and powerful or beautiful deities. And all of the tantric imagery really for me is about just kind of bringing out those qualities that are already there in me. So it's not like I'm worshiping something external to me,
Yeah.
some kind of like permanent God figure in the sky, who's going to come down and intervene in my affairs and protect me. Um, Really, what I'm doing is I'm calling on those qualities within myself. Um, and so, would I call that worship? Um, Actually, when I think of it that way, that's like really kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
I
It
like.
is. It is. I like it. I agree with you. I think that we have to, use our words wisely. And I actually just thought I'd look up the word worship, the definition of it. And it triggered something for me. So it says the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. And what's kind of interesting about it from my perspective is that so there is no like creator God within or gods within Buddhism. And so like it's easy to say sort of like, well, yeah, it's a godless religion, but then you read all these things, there's all these realms and there's like even a God realm, So I think the language gets a little bit confusing in terms of like what a God is, but I like the word deity. And it strikes me that it is actually it is to me it is worship, and what we're worshiping is the divine, but the divine is nothing other than everything that is, right? And so like because either everything is divine or nothing is divine, right? So if you're going to use that kind of language, I suppose, and so I really feel like those qualities, those qualities that you're talking about that are embodied by all of these figures, these beings, are like that's really what we're worshiping. And I heard it said that Buddhism is a worship of wisdom. Like that's actually what's being worshipped is wisdom. And given what I understand through my practices, wisdom and compassion are just two sides to the same coin.
Yeah.
And so, ultimately, there's all these wonderful qualities. Like many, it's so diverse, right? But at the very like the essence, like what feels like proper worship is worship of wisdom itself, wisdom, compassion itself.
Right.
That's kind of how it feels to me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And um when I do feel that, and even before I became a Buddhist, I'm kind of thinking about times when I felt kind of a deep sense of worship, um, whether that be like actually from like a religious experience or just being out in nature and being kind of in awe of what I'm witnessing. There is this kind of yeah, you almost kind of touch on your own goodness and compassion and wisdom when you feel that um yeah, that kind of worshiping moment.
And
Even
there's
just
all
nature, it's so interesting.
right, there are all these expressions, right, of wisdom, right? So like like in nature, you don't have somebody talking at you or whatever, but you definitely have sort of direct apprehension of sort of these truths, right? About emptiness and interdependence, right? Like you kind of can get that like naturally just by being in nature. But I think that like within human society, one thing that strikes me like is this like certainly within Tibetan Buddhism is there is what appears to me still like, so if we're using this deep reverence, if you will, as towards a deity as the definition of worship, then it really seems to me like there is also sort of like a worshiping of the beings who exhibit those qualities the most, right? And so like, and I like that. I like that when you know, like, so in my mind, I'm like, it was really hard to sort of, the idea of worshiping a human being, right?
Right.
It just seemed wrong. It seemed sacrilegious. It seemed just blasphemous. It seemed like whatever, just wrong somehow.
Yeah.
You know, like no matter who they are, I don't care who they are, right? Like if it's a human being, you know, like they don't deserve it, sort of,
Right.
you know. And then like I realized like no, actually like these qualities, like you said, what we're doing is we're uncovering them, so they're inherent in each and every one of us, and so they find expression all the time through all beings. And so we can have a deep sense of reverence, right? Sort of like a worshipful attitude, if you will, towards literally every being, right? Like there's no reason why we couldn't view every being as a divine being and give it deep reverence and respect. And if we don't understand it, so for example, people operate or acting in a way that we don't understand and maybe makes life inconvenient or unhappy for us, perhaps they're actually, manifesting some of those qualities in the way that we simply can't see or can't understand. Like we just don't know, right? And so giving it sort of the benefit of the doubt, like I don't mean that I go around like worshiping every single being. I'm not bowing at everybody's feet, but I do think that there is a, like an opportunity to cultivate that sort of attitude, right? Like even if you're not like, it would be, people wouldn't like it if I was like, praising them and bowing to them, right? They would think I was making a mockery or making fun of them somehow. But I think that actually, like, I do notice a real change in my perspective when I view people as divine and as having that Buddha nature themselves. Like when I recognize it in the moment, when I'm actually engaged with somebody and I see that little glimpse in them, even if it's not being sort of actively manifested, everything changes. Like things soften and are easy. It's easier.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of reminding me of the word that sometimes is used is like rejoice. So like rejoicing in other people's goodness and compassion and good qualities. And I really like that word, and find it, similar to worship, where it's like, man, I'm just amazed at what people are capable of, and so grateful for them.
Yeah.
And people, from as kind of noble and excellent as the Dalai Lama, all the way, to folks who maybe we're scared of, that people are capable of all of that goodness, even if they're not showing it right now. And one thing about that too that I'm trying to touch into more lately is how even when people are maybe not showing their goodness, we can still perceive them as our teacher, and in that way kind of worship at least what maybe that interaction or whatever stress from interacting with someone who's not in their best mind, maybe that we can learn something from that interaction, and turn our minds towards the Dharma because of maybe a stressful interaction. Like the Lojong slogan I love right now is, when the world is full of evil, transform all mishaps into the path of Bodhi. And so in that way, yes, every being is our teacher.
Well, think about it. If it's the qualities and not the beings themselves, right? That's what we said. It's actually these qualities that we admire and worship, if you will. Then, if a person is such an awful whatever entity, or our experience with them is so terrible, then they are giving us an opportunity to, if they're not expressing those qualities themselves, like if it's like the opposite, like the negative, right? Like they're expressing the opposite of all the qualities we admire and want in ourselves. That means they're actually giving us an opportunity to express those qualities ourselves, right? And that's like, it is one aspect of this path that I have struggled with, is like, I actually don't find it that difficult to see all beings as deities or expressions of the divine or whatever you want to call it. But I've oftentimes I don't see it in myself. I'm like, no, not me,
yeah.
not me, everybody else, right? Like, sure, that little maggot or whatever, yeah, that too, but not me. But the thing is the truth of the matter, yes, me too, right? This guy too. And if I'm in a relationship with somebody, or having an interaction with somebody that's deeply negative and they're going in this other direction, then it really, like, the antidote is to apply the positive qualities, right? And it sort of reminds me, I used to live downtown Sacramento, where there were a lot more homeless people living on the streets and stuff than there are where I currently live. And one of the things I miss about that is I oftentimes would think of, I always thought like people who are really down and out, and homeless people are just an example of that. That they're like essentially like angels, right? And only in the sense, what I mean is they're that when we witness their suffering and we see them in these terrible conditions, a lot of people will develop a hardness and will turn away from it or whatever, right? That's sort of like a natural self-protecting sort of response. But other people might actually turn towards, I'm not suggesting that they go and give money or whatever, but like they open up, right? And then they can sense those same qualities of compassion and wisdom, and they can see the causes and conditions that lead to these situations, and possibly something that they can actually do to benefit them. Anyway, I really do. I see, like, even when people are really shitty,
Yeah.
whatever's going on, like, then good, then it's in us. Like, it's always there. It's being exhibited somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and that, that we can, I mean, I'm thinking about times in my life where I've been shitty, and it's like, what helped me in that moment was not more shittiness, right? Coming from another person. It was compassion.
That's right.
And even if I wasn't, present or, ready to be able to like make changes in the moment, it still affected me. So we never know how our actions impact other people. Even just a smile, I think sometimes is really helpful, especially, on the topic of homeless folks. I work with a lot of people who are homeless, or on the verge of being homeless, and that's one of the things that that folks say a lot is like, so often people just won't even look me in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I get a smile, man, that's a good day. That can turn my day around. And something sweet. I think it was Kangxir Rinpoche. Or gosh, who was it? I can't remember. Some wonderful teacher. He was saying that no matter what, any homeless person that he passes, he gives them money. No matter what their condition, whether he thinks, maybe they're using substances, whatever. He's just like, just give them money. It's fine. Yeah. And I thought that was really sweet, because sometimes we get in our head about things, and which I get, but, and I think, probably with him too, like, he's not just throwing money or handing money. He's really giving off energy, and maybe even having a conversation with that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so much that we can do with so little, right? Actually, we have so much, and that's our true nature, which is,
so that's what we're worshiping.
That's what we're worshiping. Yeah.
our true nature.
Exactly.
I love it. Like, that sounds actually, what do you worship? I worship my true nature. I like that. Oh. Yeah. Our true nature. I worship our true nature. I like it. I dig it. I do want to check in with you. It's, how You hanging in there? You seem like you're doing pretty good, but
I'm hanging in there, but you know, it's 7:30, so why don't we just take it easy tonight and we'll come back next week. We've got, you know, a whole bunch of questions. We're having, I don't know, I'm having fun. Daniel, how are you having fun?
I like it. I think this should just be the format of the show from now on.
I dig it.
We should just like have bowls of whatever. Maybe even like put some Bazooka Joes or something, that Laffy Taffy's in there, you know, and just like maybe like some Zen koans or something, and we'll just riff on it, right?
Yeah.
Like
maybe the Laffy Taffy after I get my braces off.
Okay. All right. Exactly. I gotta say, I like it. I like the sort of impromptu sort of nature, right? And the feeling of like that we don't have to like be a subject to death or anything like that, right? Like we can like just sort of like tackle some of these things and move on. And that question that you started with, that was ace. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I liked that one too. That came from a listener. So thank you. You know who you are. And it was a great discussion. But
well, I'm looking forward to seeing a healthy, happy you next week, right? Maybe we'll be doing, let's just plan on it. We're going to do the same thing next week.
That sounds great.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Well, drink lots of, stay hydrated, drink lots of tea and all of that good stuff. Okay.
Well, definitely. All right. Thanks, Daniel.
Well, Jack. Bye, everybody. Bye.